Being a head coach in the NFL is one of the most coveted jobs out there. There's no shortage of guys that are lining up for one of these opportunities when one opens up. I mean, after all, there are only 32 jobs to go around for all of those football coaches. And it is the pinnacle of their profession. So obviously, if somehow a coach finds themselves with an opportunity to become an NFL head coach, they almost always take it. What is interesting, though, is how the role changes over time once they become a head coach. It is something we see a lot with veteran coaches who have been in the game for a while. Sure, they start off hungry in the film room 24/7, heading the meetings, doing whatever it is that NFL coaches do to try and help their team win. But it seems like so many of these tenured coaches start to get a little comfortable, and some of the stories that come out during the closing scenes of their time at the top are insane. And as much as he probably wants you to forget this, new Dallas Cowboys head coach and former Green Bay Packers head coach Mike McCarthy had some crazy stories leak about the end of his time in Green Bay. Now, in fairness to McCarthy, it isn't like he didn't have any success in Green Bay. Far from it, actually. After holding a variety of assistant positions, both in the college ranks and in the NFL for nearly 20 years, McCarthy got his first shot as an NFL head coach in Green Bay, a role he held for 12 years. And during that time, he presided over one of the most consistent teams in the league. He amassed a 125, 77-2 record, and even brought a Super Bowl back to the Packers faithful in 2011. Of course, it helped that the offense McCarthy orchestrated was headed by two future Hall of Famers, Brett Favre and Aaron Rodgers. Anyway, the point being, McCarthy had a hell of a run with the Packers, a run that would have looked even better on paper if the team had not struggled so mightily during the last couple of years of his tenure. After posting a winning record and qualifying for the playoffs in 8 straight seasons in 2017, the Packers had an uncharacteristically meager campaign, finishing 7-9. Now, much of the team's struggles should be attributed to the loss of star quarterback Aaron Rodgers, who broke his collarbone during a Week 6 game against the rival Minnesota Vikings. At the time of the injury, Green Bay was sitting 4-1, poised to make another playoff run, but they would go on to lose 8 of their last 11 contests and finish the season with their first losing record since 2008. There was obviously a ton of frustration swirling around the organization, which was quite used to winning. But around the league, there was still optimism that the following season, Rodgers would return and it would be back to business as usual for the Packers. I mean, it was still the Green Bay Packers, Aaron Rodgers and Mike McCarthy. All they do is win, right?
All I do is win, no matter what.
Well, spoiler alert, they did not. 2018 was an abysmal season up north. The Packers were even worse than they had been during their injury-marked 2017 campaign, finishing 4-7-1. And as bad as that record looks, what we saw on the field was somehow worse. The Packers looked wildly disorganized, and Rodgers looked disinterested at best. In fact, he sometimes looked disgusted to even be out there. He was never Mr. Raw motivational leader, but still, to see such negative body language from the former MVP was jarring. Not only was the on-field product ugly, it seemed like every press conference was more cryptic and passive-aggressive than the next. Something was up, which led many people to speculate what exactly it could be. Now, it is true that McCarthy and Rodgers never really presented the illusion of being buddy-buddy before. In fact, Green Bay Packers running back Ryan Grant, who played with Rodgers and for McCarthy from 2007 to 12, explained that most guys on the team knew Rodgers didn't care for the head coach at all. His displeasure with McCarthy stemmed from his infamous draft day fall, when McCarthy was the offensive coordinator for the San Francisco 49ers, who elected to choose Alex Smith number 1 overall, while Rodgers tanked all the way down to 24th. Aaron's always had a chip on his shoulder with Mike, Grant explained. The guy who ended up becoming your coach passed on you when he had the chance. Aaron was upset that Mike passed on him, that Mike actually verbally said that Alex Smith was a better quarterback. Sure, hindsight is 20/20, and no one today is debating which of the two is the better quarterback, but Rodgers was clearly peeved by the whole thing. Apparently, it wasn't just the perceived slighting that caused Rodgers to loathe McCarthy with such a fervor. A lot of his disdain for McCarthy also resulted from Rodgers' belief that the coach was simply bad at his job. Rodgers would regularly vent to friends and teammates that McCarthy had no idea what he was doing, and that more often than not, he was calling the wrong plays or using the wrong personnel. Basically, Rodgers believed that McCarthy was a liability as a head coach, and all he did was make the signal caller's job harder. One source told Bleacher Report, Mike has a low football IQ, and that used to always bother Aaron. He'd say Mike has one of the lowest IQs, if not the lowest IQ of any coach he's ever had. And while these allegations were always rumored, all of the winnings seemed to mask the issues bubbling beneath the surface. What's crazy is that somehow it seemed like their relationship had soured even further during their final years together. and it quickly became a huge storyline. What in the world is going on between Aaron Rodgers and Mike McCarthy? No one had an answer. Most folks just chalked it up to the two ornery gentlemen simply growing out of favor with one another. Had endured nearly a decade-long professional relationship, which can be tough even on the best of pals, something no one has ever accused Rodgers and McCarthy of being. However,
What, however? What do you mean, however? However what?
as the season trudged on and the Packers continued to struggle, it became painfully obvious that something else was going on.
What's going on?
There were all sorts of signs, like on an offensive series during a Week 3 matchup back in the 2017 season, when cameras caught Rodgers berating his coach for making, in his words, a stupid effing call. Yeah, that seems like a healthy discourse. Anyway, that 2018 season, which turned out to be McCarthy's last one in Green Bay, was absolutely disastrous in every sense of the word. The team stunk.
Oh, brother, this guy stinks!
He and Rodgers were all over the tabloids, and his job was very much in question. But somehow, in the middle of that godforsaken year, that story took an even stranger turn. Bleacher Report's Tyler Dunn put out a story that detailed an absentee coach with a propensity for midday massages, and a team that sat around wondering where and what their leader was up to. He explained, about once a week a meeting would start up and McCarthy was MIA. Players weren't quite sure where he was for a while. For example, an assistant coach would run the team's final prep on the Saturday before a game. Eventually, word leaked that McCarthy, the one calling the plays on game day, was up in his office getting a massage during those meetings. In fact, the massage therapist, who also worked on an unnamed Packers player, accidentally let it slip to said player that the head coach would sneak her up the back stairway of the facility up to his office while the rest of the team was down in meetings, preparing with the assistant coaches. Apparently, McCarthy had little to no problem putting the bulk of his responsibilities on his assistant coaches. He almost always denied outside interview opportunities for his assistants that were under contract, and he continually increased their workload while they were there under the veil of preparing them for their eventual promotion elsewhere.
This guy was a real jerk.
Now, in all likelihood, it probably wasn't this cartoonish scene where during every single meeting, McCarthy would slide down to the back door and take his massage therapist upstairs while the players and his assistant coaches prepared for the next game. But still, he was hardly ever a part of those meetings. And one front office member during McCarthy's tenure explained that it definitely played a role in the head coach falling out of favor with the team. As they put it, if you're not a part of the meetings and then you're trying to be pissed about execution, nobody's going to really respect you. They're going to look at you like, where have you been all week? It sounded like he was really just chilling. This notion infuriated McCarthy. After the incident, he went on record saying, "I wouldn't even know where to start and stop with the article. But to say that I skipped a team meeting for a massage is utterly absurd." He continued dripping in sarcasm, "I have a massage scheduled for tomorrow, and I can promise you I will not miss my primary responsibility of picking up my 2 kids from school." The entire situation continued to escalate, at least in Rodgers' mind, validated what he had thought all along, and he decided he needed to take things into his own hands. Apparently, Rodgers changed about a third of the plays that McCarthy was calling at the line of scrimmage. As a result, a power struggle ensued, and the team, which was loaded with young players at most of the positions, was lost.
Both of you guys working as co-managers.
Well, that might be a little confusing for people because they know me as manager. We will be co-managers together.
Unsure of which orders to take. The team had 3 rookie receivers in Jamon Moore, Marquez Valdez-Scantling, and Equanimous St. Brown, trying to fill the shoes of veteran wideouts like Jordy Nelson and company. And they had no clue what to make of the whole situation. Listen to the coach, listen to the star quarterback. It was an impossible situation for them, and it showed. There were a number of instances where Rodgers and his receivers were simply not on the same page, and he would deliver a pass toward the sideline while the receiver would be turning his route back towards the middle of the field. To make matters worse, Rodgers completely froze out McCarthy and borderline refused to hand the ball off anymore, or even throw the ball underneath. Instead, he would wait around looking for an opportunity to deliver a deep ball down the field, but the chemistry with the receivers just wasn't there. Mike McCarthy saw the writing on the wall and basically ceded control to Rodgers. He knew his time in Green Bay was pretty much over anyways, so he figured it was best to save face. So, week in and week out, he defended the quarterback, whether or not he meant it, because at that point it was clear that, at the end of the season, management was going to have to choose between him and Rodgers. And well, who would you take? The whole situation was bizarre. Here was a duo that not only had success, but coexisted for nearly a decade, only to go out in an inglorious blaze of rumors and speculation. Sure, there are other people that claim McCarthy did in fact squander the prime of Rodgers' career, but I don't know if it's fair to say that. Rodgers won an MVP, a Super Bowl, and basically accomplished just about everything a quarterback can on the field. So to say he wasted his prime, well, it seems sort of like a stretch. But all of that being said, the duo's downfall was embarrassing for both of them, McCarthy in particular, who had his name besmirched in more ways than one. One can only hope, for McCarthy's sake, that he doesn't endure a similar demise in his new home in Dallas with their resident egomaniac, Jerry Jones. If you're new here and you haven't subscribed yet, now's a great time to do that by clicking the subscribe button down below. If you like the video, then like the video. We'd really appreciate it. And last but not least, don't forget to tune into TPS every single day for more cool videos. We'll see you next time.